Got a new camera.
You did? I did?
Yeah, I did. How's it look? Can you see me?
I can
See all
see
my
you.
wrinkles?
I can see you.
I think you just froze. There you are.
Yeah. I think the connection with YouTube made it slower. Are we good? Are we back?
I'm golden, baby.
It says my internet connection's unstable. All right.
Uh-oh.
Chaos. You ready,
It's
bud?
so unstable.
If anything, I'll stop broadcasting to YouTube.
Okay. I think we
Ready?
golden. Yep, let's do it.
We Gucci. Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday, weekly Not Your Average Investor Show. I am joining you today to talk about something bigger than investing in just a rental property. We're talking about investing in a tidal wave, investing in the thing that can most supercharge your returns, most overpromise for you, give you the most upside when you are investing, and that is a healthy downtown. And GC and I have been to a couple of healthy downtowns recently. We're going to storytell a little bit around GC's family vacation, Pablo's just regular observations on a business trip, and then we're going to make it all make sense. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, the man that I affectionately like to call GC because he's got the genius concepts, knows how to generate cash flow. He's a great co host, and because his name is Greg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be with you. And I'm so excited. The show is just doing bigger and bigger things. We're starting to send you on location now when we do
Mm-hmm.
certain shows, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. No coincidence that behind me is one of the thriving downtowns that we're talking about. We got downtown Austin in the background here. I wish GC, do you have that picture that I sent you? I'm gonna share it in the chat when I get a second. How I can how I set up this whole like studio in this
Oh,
apartment to have this thing. You
I
should
do have that.
you should show it to folks. But
All
while
right.
you're pulling up, I'm gonna just go ahead and kick us off with a little tradition that we have. Is that no?
That's not it.
No, that's it. It's just not a good experience.
It's just not a good experience.
You know what is a good experience, GC?
What's that?
The roll call, baby. We
Let's do
got
it.
Chris Lee from Fernandina Beach kicking us off. We got the Maven from the mountains of Denver, Leslie Wilson. We got our leadoff batter hitting third, Mr. John Henning. We got the Shaw man of the Not Your Average Investor community, Nadeem Shaw with a good morning, good afternoon. We got Joanna saying hi to everybody. We got our regulars, Gary and Rosalind Riley from Marietta, California, who we
We
regard
guard
you.
you.
We got Laura Colby from Washington State. Good to have you back. We got LinkedIn Lowry in the house. Good afternoon, all he says. Who else we got out here? Right. We got El Maestro.
Oh,
Mr.
my show, John Williams.
Mr. John Williams from New York, Long Island. Who else we got out here? We got the Man of Steel is in the house. Vincent Barbarites. We got our favorite smile from the Pacific Northwest, Pamela Myers. We got Linda Mercurio joining us. We got the first family of the Not Your Average of Us show, the matriarch and patriarch, Ken and Carolyn Malene.
We
We
salute
salute
you.
you. We got the luck of the Irish has shown up here. Kevin O'Brien from Rhode Island. That's so. I guess you're you now have like an Irish accent right now that you're like an Irishman.
Yes, I do, lad.
See, we now.
I'm back from Ireland and I'm not letting it go.
I love it, Robert. I asked. So Greg's talking about going back to Ireland next. You want to tell him
Oh,
what
yeah.
you told me about?
Oh, yeah. Highlight of my morning so far, before seeing all of you here on the show, was booking the trip for Big Papa, my dad, and I to go see the Steelers play in Dublin in September. We're going to go watch the Steelers play the Vikings. He and I get to take a special trip once a year to go watch the Steelers play an away game. And so we're locked and loaded, signed, sealed, and delivered. We got the Guinness factory tour set up. We got the
Mhm.
hotel. We got dinners ready to go. And now it's just time to see our favorite team play.
When I told Greg that he's like an honorary Irishman, what was your answer?
I said, well, yes, of course. My
No, you
family
said
history is Irish.
no,
What
you
else did
said
I
I
say?
am Irish. I
I
am.
am
It's
Irish.
it's mine. It's my Ireland. All right. Anyways, so we got out here. That was a bit of an aside, Kevin. You prompted that one. Robert Arsenal Jr. checking in with a good afternoon. Good to have you. Who else? We got Jeff Pettijohn from Missouri. Joe Culler with a happy Tuesday afternoon. Justine Herrera. Good morning. Lovely Peaks. Suzanne Parker in the house. All right. Let's kick this off, GC. Before we do, though, you got a big announcement today, don't you think? A little beep, 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 breaking news.
I do, and it's an announcement I get to bring to all of us in the Not Your Average Investor community first. all of our clients and everybody else will be hearing about a little bit later through emails and whatnot. But we wanted to bring it to you all first because we love you and you guys commit so much time to us. So we're here to announce JWB's largest incentive package ever. And I've said that a couple of times over the past year, but guess what? This incentive package is bigger than those. The incentive package is going to entail roughly $17,500 of incentives. And it's really exciting because what JWB is doing, I won't get too complex unless you guys want the real details, but at the end of the day, what JWB is doing is arranging a situation where you can lock in your interest rate at 5%. So a 5% lock-in rate does not require you to buy down the rate, does not increase your closing costs. JWB is doing what's called a forward commitment, which means that we pre-purchase these rate buy downs for clients, and it allows our clients to get down to that 5% rate. Actually costs JWB about $12,000 to go ahead and do one of these forward commitments so that you can get down to the 5% rate. So for those clients that take advantage of this, they'll get that 5% rate. And in addition to this, they will also continue to get the JWB property management credit, which is that maintenance credit that we talk about, because we know maintenance costs are coming. It's a part of rental property investing. Roughly the first 5 years of maintenance are going to be on JWB's back. And the way that we do that is we just simply cut you a check in your first month of ownership. And it's between $4,000 to $6,000, depending on the property you choose. So you total all those together, and on average, it's about a $17,500 incentive package. And it's on every property that you purchase. There's not a minimum number of properties that you need to be able to take advantage of this. So as you'd expect, this is available for a short time, and it's available for those who want to take action. So it's available for the next 30 contracts that we sign. So those would be the next 30 properties that you purchase. But there is no maximum. There is no minimum. It's available on each purchase. And if it's something that you are on the edge and you're saying, you know what, I know that I want to do this, guys, this is the best time in our company history to take advantage of an incentive package. So would encourage you, if you're a JWB client, to reach out to your JWB portfolio manager. If you're not, you don't know exactly how to get in touch with them, you can just send an email to info@jwbcompanies.com. You can just send a text message to 904-293-0341. If we could, let's go ahead and put that in the chat. And yeah, we're just excited to help you all make really good decisions here.
GC, I got a couple questions about this massive $17,000 credit that you're talking about here. Am I understanding correctly that you basically you said for the next 30 properties, you basically bought like a 30 property Starbucks card for 5% mortgages, and you can give out 30 Starbucks 5% mortgages, and that's kind of the limiting factor here to receive that 17,000 per property value?
Yeah, we basically purchase in advance the equivalent of 30 loans for our properties. And then once those 30 loans are committed to, then that incentive is ended. And yeah, so that's why this is such a great offer, and there is a finite end to it.
You know, as a marketer, I love scarcity. Kevin O'Brien has a question. Does the percent lock-in rate apply to IRA accounts, like non-recourse loans, like to say 5% down to non-recourse loans?
Great question, Kevin. No, it does not. So in order to take advantage of this, you need to work with one of our approved lenders, like always. And there's a specific loan product. It's our DSCR product. And that's a great thing because the qualifying for a DSCR product is actually a little bit easier than conventional financing. And the experience of the loan it's a little bit easier. I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be easy because no loan is easy, but the requirements are a little bit easier and the experience is a little bit easier. So, but you do need to use a specific product within our approved lender network, and happy to give you all the details when you talk with the team about that.
Okay, two more questions. It didn't feel that long ago, GC, where you said we never give incentives. And nowadays it feels like the incentives keep getting bigger and bigger. What is the thinking behind that, man?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the very first incentive package that we did. I know what it's in relation to. It was in relation to interest rates rising.
Probably late
I don't remember
2021,
exactly
yeah.
when the incentive came out, but it was around 2022 when interest rates started rising. So, I'll tell you what, guys, these interest rates have been higher than we all want, and they have stuck around longer than we all want. And what we have said is we want to step in and make this decision easy for all of you. In the face of high interest rates, there's a reason why JWB interest rates have been able to be lower and lower and lower. And the reason that we do that is because we stand by our assets being cash flow positive. So when we create these incentives, what we're looking at when my team and I are looking at preparing our property evaluations, we run the numbers and we say, okay, well, what interest rate do our clients need to be at in order for this to be cash flow positive and to hit our return on investment? So we run those calculations, and our recent rates have been at about 5.5%. And so that's cash flow positive. I think what's changed in the last, call it 30 days, maybe 60, definitely 60 days, as long as we've been thinking about kind of putting this into motion and kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I mean, it is a hard time to make decisions, you know, for investments, for life in general. There are a lot of things that are changing in this world at all times. And, the harder it is for us to make decisions, unfortunately, financial decisions are some of the first ones that we tend to put to the side. And the problem with that is when you have a really good financial decision to make, but you put that to the side, then, inevitably you just delay your financial outcome. And so the talk track for us internally right now is what can we do to kind of cut through the noise, to cut through everything that is going on geopolitically with the wars that are happening. Tariffs are talked about every single day. There's just some uncertainty. We're saying, what can we do to cut through all of that noise and just make this an absolute no-brainer? And so that's where we landed, and we feel really good. We also have a really great partner where this forward commitment became something that is somewhat reasonable for JWB to do for a very short period of time,
Mhm.
which wasn't the case back in the day. And so you put all those things together, and we just thought, let's make a splash. Let's make a splash. So excited what we can bring for everybody, because ultimately, right now, especially for those who maybe sitting on equity in your JWB portfolio or not, you're not sure exactly how to tap into that, but you could be doing something. We can put all of these concepts that we've been talking about for the last, call it 2 months, about how to leverage the equity you have, put a portfolio together. You could walk in with, you know, 30, $50,000 of incentives by buying multiple properties and really set yourself up to hit your financial goals much quicker.
Man, as you described all that, GC, it kind of like painted a big picture of the unique value prop that I believe JWB sells that nobody else sells, which is outcomes, right? Um, I hear a company that is trying to deliver on a promise of not just, hey, I sold you this house and I want this house to return, but I sold you this plan for your life. And if you are on route to this and you see all this like short-term stuff happening and that's dissuading you, we're here to do whatever is possible to show you that we believe that this thing is all going to work and that this plan that we set up before tariffs and before war with China and whatever is going on um, is still a viable thing, and this is how we own the outcome, kind of thing, right?
You know it. It's what we believe. It's what we believe since day one. We're steadfast in that belief. We know that this model works, and so much of what we do on this show is just help people make good decisions, cut through that noise, and just know that you found an asset class that can provide a better financial outcome for you. You can do it in a way that you're going to be able to sleep well at night. So an incentive package like this is great news for the marketing arm, of which I'm a part of the marketing arm for us, and the sales arm of JWB. But more importantly, I just hope that it just help somebody step over that chasm of a little bit of fear and uncertainty, maybe getting started or even taking a step forward in times of uncertainty within the world right now, and just make a really great decision.
Mike Foster wants to know, does the 5% incentive depend at all on the amount of down payment made? Like if somebody wanted to put 20% down, could they still get a 5% down payment?
You know what? I didn't ask that question, Mike. That's a really good question. I was told that by doing this, we would be able to lock in at a 5% rate, but I didn't ask that specific question. So what I would encourage us to do is just reach out to our JWB portfolio manager and get that answer directly.
And last question, when this incentive first got announced, who was the first person you thought of, GC?
I thought of you, Pablo.
Yeah.
I was up this morning. I'm like, this is we have obviously been talking about your portfolio expanding. So
Mhm.
you were my first thought, buddy.
I know, I know. I'm like, all right, gotta book call and find out incentive package. All right, cool. That being said, this call is not about me. This is a show for the people. And today we have something new. Today we are going to take you behind the scenes on a Greg Cohen family vacation here, where he is taking his family to Austin. As he's there, I start getting these texts. I start getting these texts like, "Hey man, I see it. Like I totally see the future of Jacksonville here." And I start like, and he starts like this like shared um notes document and starts uploading pictures and starts putting notes from his tour. And I'm like following along and I'm like, this is good content. This is good content. So we're gonna talk about kind of like these aha moments that you had on your family vacation in Austin via the shared document that you that you put together live stream. So GC, tell me about this vacation, right? You guys are do you normally take your wife and kids on business research trips? Is that what you do?
Under another name, yes, it's called
How do you
spring
sell
break.
that?
I mean, so here's kind of like our mentality for spring break. It's something that's special for my kids and my wife and I, and we want to make it special. But we live near the beach, and so I guess some families want to go to the beach on spring break or whatnot. We're blessed to live right next to the beach, and my family's really active. We like to do stuff. So I guess I don't know, maybe when the world opened up after COVID, my kids were kind of old enough to really travel again, and we said, you know what, for spring break, why don't we choose cool downtowns, places in the city in the country that we haven't been to that we think are going to be a combination of great food, great drink, great culture, great outdoor activities, easy to do things, and some landmarks that are just really special to be able to see across the country. And so we stopped in Denver, and we actually went out to Vancouver as well, because we went to go and see some family there and we wanted to check out Vancouver. And we have checked out a number of these downtowns, been to Tampa, right? Number of these different downtowns. And as we were thinking about our vacation this year, we just thought of Austin. And we said, you know what? Why don't we go to Austin because it checks these boxes? Great weather, great food, and we love how outdoor friendly it is. And then, I'm always thinking about the show and the community and investing. And my wife is always hearing about how I'm comparing Jacksonville to this next great American downtown. And so I won't say I pulled one over on her. She knew that I was thinking about this a little bit, but it just checked all the family boxes first as a place that we really wanted to go and spend some time.
Got it. So bring us with you on your tour, GC. So you're sending me this document live. Talk to me about this downtown tour.
Well, I'll set the stage, so it's like we are on a guided walking tour, and I have a
Mhm.
10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they could not care less about Austin's like historical features or how downtown was blossoming. So if you want to know the greatest sales job I've probably ever done is I convinced my two kids to be able to come on the tour with me. So I'm sitting there. If you can just imagine, it's a small tour, and I'm taking notes left and right. I'm asking 1,000 questions, and my kids are probably like, "Oh my gosh, my dad is such a nerd." But
No
so we go
way.
through this, and at every stop along the way, I'm just looking, and in my head, I'm thinking about a comparison to Jacksonville, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, like." It's either I see this today or I see this in 5 years for Jacksonville. So one of the first things we do in downtown Austin is we go kayaking on Ladybird Lake, which is literally right in downtown Austin. And so you have this beautiful body of water. It's a dammed off part of the Colorado River, and you can go kayaking and you can do all these fun things. And so one morning, my family and I were out there kayaking for a couple hours, and you just see the downtown skyline. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is like the St. Johns River in downtown Jacksonville. Like,
Mhm.
there are not too many downtowns that are blessed to have a beautiful body of water where you can just see the skyline. And so my son and I are in one kayak, and my daughter and my wife are in another, and we're just having a blast there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Jacksonville. And then I start to think, okay, well, look at the buildings and the way that downtown is laid out in Austin. And Do you want to go through the picture show here?
Oh, I'm just gonna kind of scroll through it as you talk, and then we'll and
Yeah.
then we'll go back and explain some of this to get the
Okay,
answer.
so then I'm thinking about how downtown is laid out. And in Austin, there are not like major thoroughfares through downtown. If you think about some other downtowns, there are, right? Tampa is an example where they actually had to negotiate how to place make and build a downtown, even
Mhm.
though they had a bunch of major, arteries going through, roads going through downtown. And Austin doesn't have that. Jacksonville doesn't have that either, which is beautiful. So as we're thinking about placemaking in a downtown, it's so much uh, less expensive. It's easier to place make because of that. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, man, this is so cool. Then we're walking to different places. We're walking everywhere. It's maybe, a half mile to a mile to be able to walk to the dinner that we wanted to go to. And the whole time we're just enjoying it. My kids, my wife and I, we're having a blast. We're walking. There's people around. There's just a vibrancy. And I'm like, you know what? This is something that we don't have in downtown Jacksonville yet. But I'm like, you know what? Nobody's complaining about walking a mile here to go to a really cool restaurant. And, when you have a 10 and a 12-year-old, sometimes you get some of that. I didn't get any of that. And it was just because it's what everybody was doing and there was a natural vibrancy. And I can keep going on. We go to this really great restaurant. It's a really great barbecue place. And I go in and it's a building that's like 100 years old and it's brick and in my head I'm thinking adaptive reuse. The projects that JWB has done downtown that we've completed, they've been adaptive reuse. That means that you're not building new construction, you're taking these beautiful historic buildings and you're renovating them. And we saw a ton of that in Austin. And then, there's University of Texas. We were on this walking tour and we heard about how important the University of Texas was
Mhm.
to creating a better quality of life, a talent incubator, job attraction, and brain gain rather than brain drain, meaning the educated college kids are not leaving Austin, they're staying in Austin. These high-paying jobs are here, the tech scene is here, and ultimately that leads to higher median income. So all of this is just coming together, and it was a really special tour for me because I got to just be a student with like some insider information into what's happening, in our hometown.
I love it, man. I love the story. We're gonna go back into this picture slide and and like kind of go deeper into like the actual similarities. But Man of Steel, Vincent Barbarite saying the same thing. Crazy. I just experienced the same thing in Nashville as we were walking around. The amount of growth and building was insane. All I did was tell my wife on the plane home how excited I am to see Jacksonville look like in the next 5 to 8 years. Vincent, I had the same thing, right? Like when GC was doing this, I was in downtown Tampa. Like I had just gotten back from downtown Tampa, and that's kind of like the idea for the show came about because I had a very similar experience. I was there. Next week, I'm going back to Tampa because I have a conference that I'm gonna be speaking at, and I was checking out kind of like the hotel and the area in order to just like get familiar with it. And I'm like, it's right on the Water Street District, right? That we talk about on this show all the time. Water Street District developed by Brian Mull, the guy that JWB recruited to come to Jacksonville to develop downtown. And when I got there, I'd been to Tampa a bunch, right? Like us skater guys, right? Like with friends that when you go to UF, you have a friend in every city in Florida, right? So I had been to Jacksonville before, obviously before moving here. I've been to plenty to Tampa before. I've got good friends there, but I had never really experienced this Water Street district. And quite frankly, the only reason I hadn't distributed it because I hadn't experienced it is because the last time I went was 2008, 2019. This thing's new, right? Like
It
it
is.
came out of nowhere. And as soon as I drove in, it was like I was driving through the Tampa that I knew, and then all of a sudden, scene changes and I'm in Miami.
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
like it just that like I felt like I was in downtown Miami. I was staying in this place called a super cool hotel concept called Roost, where it's a mixed use hotel slash condo building. So they have condos in some of the floors. Some of the floors are hotel rooms. There's a co-working space that you get access to whether you're staying at the hotel or in the condos. All these like world class amenities. Downstairs is attached to a restaurant, and I could literally just every storefront that changed downstairs. It was the quintessential mixed use thing where every block was a cool, swanky hotel with a lobby, and a restaurant in it, and a rooftop bar that you could pick and choose between the different places. And as I'm like walking through, and I'm just seeing people walking their dogs. I'm seeing people going out to breakfast, whether it was breakfast time. I'm seeing folks going to the Tampa Bay Lightning game because the stadium is right there. I'm seeing people on bike, like, doing exercise, and it was just this incredible experience that I hadn't, like I don't get that in Jacksonville, right? Like I lived in the middle of that in Miami. It was brand new, and it really just reminded me of when I lived in California for 5 years from 2004 to 2009, and when I moved back, I went to this place called Midtown that somebody told me about in Miami. And when I got there, I'm like, what the hell is this place, right? Like it was just like north of downtown, and it was the same exact thing in like 6 square blocks. The same experience had popped up, and that ended up connecting to downtown later on, and then Wynwood and the design districts and all these different things, right? So like the feeling of these things and how quickly they can happen became very, very real to me. And I shot a text to Brian Mole. I was like, hey man, I'm eating a pizza at the Water Street District. Right. So it was just a really, really cool experience. And we talk on the show all the time about how you want to, like Jacksonville has all these fundamental things where it's great to invest in long-term rentals. But this idea of having an insider tip of seeing the future is so, so real. And when you can go and kind of like live in the future and then come back to within 5 years of it is a very interesting feeling that we're trying to bring. So we're going to end the show, really going back to the numbers and really contextualizing to Jacksonville. But let's talk about these features, these downtown features that make it so livable. And then we'll talk about kind of like the effect of this stuff. The first thing that you sent me, GC, was this picture of the Riverwalk. And
Mhm.
I think Linton Lowry said Austin's got a cool city with running trails right by the Riverwalk. But like this is basically like what they're doing with the Emerald Trail and how they're developing right by the St. Johns River, right?
Exactly. This is called activating the waterfront. And so I was really curious about the timeline of when all of this started to happen in downtown Austin. And my lovely walking tour guide let me know that about 10 years ago is when they really started to activate the waterfront. And that just means it can mean a couple of different things. If you have restaurants on the water, if you have opportunities to have retail on the water, you open those buildings to be restaurants or bars or something that somebody can interact with, and do that. And that's what we're doing in downtown Jacksonville right now. The water's a little shut off from the commercial opportunities right now, but that's going to change. It's actually in the process of changing. And for Austin, it was about creating this trail system. So that's not the best picture. You can't really see the
Not a
trails,
great picture.
but
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
doing the best I could. And that started happening about 10 years ago in Austin.
Then you started noticing some cultural stuff, right? Like you saw the statue of Willie Nelson, and it reminded you of something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since then, my kids are just singing on the road again all the time here. So we talked a little bit about Willie Nelson, but Willie Nelson really is instrumental to downtown Austin, and I just didn't understand to what degree he is revered in Austin and how influential he really is. And so, I'm starting to think similarities to Jacksonville, and we have another prominent figure who's very influential. His name's James Weldon Johnson in Jacksonville. A little bit of a different type of way of lifestyle, I would imagine, but both very prominent figures and folks that we're both that both cities are very proud of. So, Willie Nelson had such an impact, and it really kind of shaped not just the music scene, the entire culture. What was Austin known for in the beginning? It was really music, and Willie
Yeah.
Nelson was a big part of that.
Icons of culture is what I was thinking, right? Like it's like Willie's iconic, James Weldon Johnson's iconic. If you were on the tour, you went to the new James Weldon Johnson Park there's James Weldon Johnson Square right in the heart of downtown, next to like the La Villa Apartments. They made that James Weldon Johnson Park, right? Like you start to see the kind of historical things start to match. The other thing that I think is cool is this idea of you took this like picture of like Tito's vodka and how it was started there, and you're talking about how like Tito's kind of created this like American vodka brand, but Tito's is more than that. Tito's actually created the category of craft spirits. They were kind of like the category king and the success story of that. And it makes me think of how we have that Intuition Brewery and the Manifest Distillery kind of like right there by the Maxwell House. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
No, I was just thinking about just they were telling really cool stories about it. I actually wasn't thinking about intuition. I love where you're going. And the Tito's story is entrepreneurship. And they
Yeah.
talked about a lot of obstacles that they overcame in order to do this. So this is kind of funny. You actually have this like tasting room here in downtown, but there's a whole story behind it. But ultimately, they can't charge you anything when you go in there. So they just give you tastes of Tito's, and then whatever you want to donate, it goes to charity. And there's like an ordinance that they can't actually like have a tasting
Mhm.
room if it's not attached to the
Yeah.
distillery or whatever. So just so many things about entrepreneurship that I fell in love with. And cities, major cities, major successful downtown cities have these icons or these stories that happen, and Tito's is certainly one of those for Austin.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I find that once you start that economic flywheel going, good things happen and these success cases happens, right? It takes bigger businesses to invest in a downtown and start kind of like developing that ecosystem. But these externalities that happen, right? Like the birth of a new category came out of this. Whole Foods being headquartered in downtown Austin spawned a whole bunch of like direct to consumer organic product brands and that whole ecosystem and e-commerce soon then followed, right? So, as you guys are relocating in downtown and FIS is there, like the financial products that are going to come from that, the autonomous vehicles that we're talking about and like that whole corridor and everything that's happening, right? Like I think we will be on the lookout for, who's the next billionaire walking in our streets that like started something in downtown Jacksonville. And then now you got these pictures of these wide streets, GC. I like this. I like these urban landscapes, urbanscapes that have these wide sidewalks, old growth trees, lanes for cars and for pedestrians and for scooters and bikes. Tell me about that.
Yeah, am thinking Pearl Square. This is
Yeah.
the major development of which JWB is a sponsor of, a $2 billion development in downtown Jacksonville that we're already breaking ground on. And when you understand how we're placemaking here, it is not about easy returns on investment day one for every investor in Pearl Square. We are willing to design this and place make this to make it a place where it's easy to bike, it's easy to walk, there's green space, people can sit on a yard and enjoy all the amenities around them. And it takes investors with a very long-term vision to do that because it's more expensive. There's square footage there that you're not using to generate revenue. And it's
Mhm.
hard for developers to do this, and it's really hard to do it at scale. And I thought that Austin did a very nice job of it. You can see here the makes it easy to bike or to be on those scooters. You can see there's a separation from the road. There's trees. And that doesn't happen by accident. So it's a public-private partnership that really needs to come together to do this. And when it's done right, you know it. You know it because people want to be there. They're not scared to walk down the street or
Yeah.
scared to bike. And it's such an amenity for the entire community.
I feel like the conversation around this in smaller cities, GC, like before everybody realizes this, is the developer conversation. It's like, yeah, but I'm losing rentable square footage. And then the argument for that is basically like, yes, but the value of your building goes way up, right? So it's
Mhm.
kind of like the cash flow versus equity conversation for developers. Is that kind of how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard enough to make some of these projects work if you're maximizing square footage, especially in a place like Jacksonville, right? We
Mhm.
are way early pioneers in this. And to do that, the numbers don't look very good in the beginning. That's just how it goes if you're maximizing square footage. So to say, hey, listen, I'm going to make the numbers a little bit worse in the short run in order to make this better for everybody, and there should be a bigger economic benefit to all later on down the line. It's tough to convince a developer to do that. That's why it's so important that JWB and the investors we have in Pearl Square, we're Jacksonville people. We're here. Our
Yeah.
businesses, our families are here, and we're willing to make that long-term commitment.
And then as you started sending me more pictures, what I started seeing more and more is this like unique thing that I never saw in Miami because Miami doesn't have historical building stock. But you start to just kind of see like these modern skyscrapers interacting with the streetscape and all this kind of stuff, which is what we're seeing. Like this picture right here. I feel like this could be taken a couple blocks like there's multiple blocks in downtown that look like this GC. What's the relevance of this kind of like historical preservation and smaller footprint with the bigger buildings?
So this was one of the biggest aha moments for me, because as we've talked about this flywheel effect, you have to get people living downtown and you have to bring amenities downtown in order for this flywheel to get kicked off. And you need incentives to be able to do that. That's the place that we're at in Jacksonville right now. But soon the flywheel churns and then you don't need incentives. And developers start to look at that place because the rents are higher there and the jobs are there and the talent's there. And the developers come in and they say, you know what? I don't need incentives. I'm going to go big. I'm going to build a big high rise, build a big skyscraper. And so I was really curious on the timing here. And in Austin in 2015, the push from the development community got to be so strong. There was so much money to be made by developers because of that flywheel effect that they changed the ordinance in Austin around 2015. And prior to 2015, I think the ordinance said you couldn't build a building higher than the state capitol building. If my memory is right, it was no higher than some amount.
Hmm.
And then they withdrew
Probably
that
probably like a
ordinance.
T12 or T13 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And then they took that away, and that's where all the skyscrapers came in. Now this picture is interesting because you can see they still have those historical storefronts there. This is protected. This is preserved.
Hmm.
This was the main drag of Austin at some point in time, and they wanted to preserve that. So that's the only reason that you don't have skyscrapers right here. So again, some thought and care about preserving what is there, but
Hmm.
this is what a successful downtown looks like. And at some point, the numbers become so good. And we'll show some of the before and afters of downtown Austin, but in a 5 or a 10 year span, you go from very small buildings to very large skyscrapers all in one space.
Yeah.
And with that brings prosperity, higher median incomes, better jobs, better quality of life.
Yeah, and here you kind of see all of it, right? Like you see the street, you see the Capitol. There's stuff that's way bigger than, but way bigger than the Capitol. And there's these smaller buildings and these bigger buildings interacting with these bike lanes, complete street. There's this historical picture here that you showed of how Congress Ave was the widest street in America because you had to turn a whole street of cattle. That made me think of how Jacksonville's original name was Cowford, right? Because it was like a place that you'd bring cattle. And then you got this building here, GC, that the first thing I thought was like, man, this looks exactly like the GC building, right? Anybody that's come on the summit, anybody that's seen like where JWB is going to get headquarters, this looks exactly like the building that y'all are buying and moving into. And it is surrounded by these like glass buildings and these skyscrapers that are going to continue to pop up.
Man, that's what I thought too. And I went and I showed my family. I was like, guys, let's do like look at the building that we're about to occupy and look at this one. You know what they said? Said, nah, Greg, I don't see it. So,
Mm,
you know what,
mm.
Pablo, you get me like nobody else gets me, brother. That's exactly what I thought. I'm glad there's two weirdos out there.
I've been telling you, man. I've been telling you. I get you, bro. I get you. But and then the other thing is all this kind of like art around downtown, right? We're seeing a lot of this in Jacksonville downtown of like this modern kind of art, like that face in the James Weldon Johnson Park, that mouth that you come out of, and then there's these like historical statues with meaning. It just feels and these like historical kind of like places that you can renovate, like how you guys are doing at the Federal Reserve building. Like you just don't, no new developer is going to come out with this. But if you find the bones for this, you can turn it into this like amazing space like you guys have done and you're doing in your building.
Yeah, and this hotel that you were pictured right here, it was vacant for like 80 years. And a developer as downtown Austin started to become this huge success, right? Developers came in. There was, I'm sure, an incentive package that allowed somebody to come in and do adaptive reuse. So not just knock it down and build something, which would have been cheaper, but to preserve this. And now, what a wonderful amenity! This is one of the most beautiful hotels, and there's a very cool story along associated with it. The person who built it, hundreds of years ago, had this great story. We don't have enough time to tell it, but just that's what you have the opportunity to do if you do this right. And I'm so excited in Jacksonville that we are doing it right and focusing on adaptive reuse.
And Maline's got an interesting question that we were talking about before. I see a lot of really tall buildings. Where do all the workers park? Is there an underground tramway? There has to be a lot of hidden infrastructure, right? We were just talking about parking, GC.
I'm so glad you asked this. It was funny because when I first checked into my hotel in Austin, I said, okay, I'd like to park I had a car and I said, I'd like to park the car. And they said, okay, just go right around in the parking garage. And I did. and it was like $60 a day to park. And I'm like, $60 a day to park? Oh my gosh. So I am like everybody else. I'm like, man, that's expensive. Where would I park? So I started looking around everywhere in Austin. If you can find a parking spot, it's super expensive. So you know what people do? They don't
What do they do?
park in downtown Austin. They live and they don't need a car because there are so many amenities around.
Mhm.
And, so there is not a lot of parking in downtown Austin. And I asked people, what are the things you complain the most about in downtown Austin? I ask this every time when I'm talking to another person from another downtown, and parking wasn't one of them. And so I think, especially in a town like Jacksonville, we do complain about parking, but I think that is um, similar for other downtowns that have the opportunity to not have a lot of people downtown yet
Yeah.
and therefore have a lot of parking, and they haven't built up skyscrapers to the extent that other successful downtowns have. But once you get to the other side, like in Austin or just think New York City, people are so excited to be living in the city.
Yeah.
Nobody even thinks I'm going to park downtown. It's like not even an expectation. So there was not a lot of parking, but nobody was complaining about it.
If you make it awesome enough, people forget about the parking thing.
Yeah,
You find a way there. We're headed to a future where like cars are less and less relevant, right? So like all of that stuff's really happening. I remember that transition in Miami where I remember the first high rise that was being designed in Miami with no parking. And they were like selling these condos. I'm like, what kind of a crazy person is going to buy this thing, you know? And now,
mhm,
people move to Brickell, people move to downtown Miami. They don't have a car. You don't need to be there. There's a little bit of public transportation. There's also Uber, right? Like they're also creating an urban trail, right? The underline as well. So all of that starts going in, and you just kind of stop talking about it because the the attraction to coming in for the amenities becomes so big that you just figure it out, right?
absolutely.
And so many people just kind of like live there that you just figured out, right?
100%.
So GC, this is the time in the show now where we start looking at the befores and afters, which I think are really interesting, right? We talked about how quick all this stuff started happening, and like we are seeing, contextualizing this to Jacksonville is the idea, right? So like this is now Jacksonville. This is what this corner here with this parking garage looks like. This is what it's going to look like in the next 5 years,
Yep.
right? Next
Sooner
five
than
years.
that.
Huh? Sooner, yeah, sooner than that, right? So like you start seeing this like this historical kind of like garage, and then you just start seeing this like storefront, people start filling in. This is West Julia and Ashley Street, the part of the places where we took tour. This is what it's going to look like. These buildings are going to start filling in. The stock is going to be there. People are going to be living there. They're going to start mixing in these public spaces. Here is we took a big group picture on this lawn
We
at the
did.
last one. More stuff filling in. You start. This is all the Pearl Street development that you guys are doing at. I forgot the name of the public-private partnership. What is it that Brian Moll is the CEO of?
Gateway Jacks.
Thank you, Gateway
Yeah.
Jacks. And this stuff, I mean, all the stuff is in a 3-year horizon. But what's really interesting is that like this is Austin 2014, this is Austin 2024. Look how much it fills in 10 years. This density. This is Tampa 2012. This is Tampa 2022. Look at this giant thing that's empty. That's where Water Street went in. This is the place that I was like, it's over here. You just couldn't walk more than a block without an awesome restaurant, something really, really cool, something you wanted to walk into and check out, and activities to do. And when you look at what's coming to Jacksonville, this stuff is all this stuff is all in it's already like in the kitchen being cooked. This is how this happens, right? Like these are all the different projects. Talk me through these projects, GC.
Yeah, so we put on a map here all the projects that have recently been completed or are under construction or will be completed in the next year or two. In the same vein of what you just saw in downtown Tampa or downtown Austin, it's happening right now in downtown Jacksonville. So all of these, look at the dates on these. You only see either completed 2025, 2026, and 2028 is the future, the stadium of the future there on the far right hand side. But this is downtown Jacksonville. This is the North Bank on top, the South Bank, and then there's Brooklyn to the west. So this is happening right now. This either these projects are already completed, or they have funding, or they are significantly close to actually starting. And then this is broken down of whether it's a park or an institutional project or mixed use. And good luck for for me telling the difference between the
The
mixed use and the
colors.
park because I'm colorblind. So you guys will have to take it from there. But there's a whole lot of parks and green space, I can tell you that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, this is just like all this stuff is gonna happen in under 5 years. And when you think about the rate of change that can happen in 10 years, and all of this stuff already going in the next five, it feels like the flywheel is about to just kind of like jump off the page, right, GC? So bring us back to like what these numbers are supposed to mean and why we should care.
So I hope you all enjoyed that little walking tour, and thanks for letting me share some of my family vacation with you. But as I'm thinking about this, what I want to do is to connect the dots for you as an everyday investor right now, making a great decision on an investment. And what I hear over and over again, and maybe you can relate to this, is you know what? I like real estate, but I want to know when's the next like shopping center that's going in, or when's the next like grocery, like really nice grocery store because I want to buy right next to that. Or people fight to buy a piece of property in a great school district. Like
Hmm.
they will literally, best friends will become enemies if it came down to that one property to get into that great school district. And it's because people believe that these catalysts are going to be the thing that's going to drive these outsized returns on investment for them. But what I want to do is what I want to share with all of you is let you know that you know, that type of thinking is really small and it might not even be relevant to the right investment for you. So we need to go away from shopping centers or grocery stores or schools as being the next big catalyst. Because when you focus on the catalyst, the number one best catalyst for you is to invest next to the next great American downtown. That is thinking bigger. And that is something where when you invest, when you hitch your wagon to the next great American downtown and you invest in an asset that is risk mitigated, that is the greatest catalyst to above average home price appreciation, rent price appreciation, and your improvement of quality of life for that community. You're a part of that. And so I really want us to stop thinking small. I don't want us to start thinking about these things that really don't matter.
Yeah.
Schools, shopping centers. Shopping centers can start and then stop 2 years later, right? It doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
when you are hitching your wagon to the next great American downtown, that's how you're going to do better out there versus other investors.
I love it, man. As you start pulling up the presentation and the numbers so that we can just kind of like review exactly what that means for an investment. Um, we talk about it all the time, right? This idea of seeing the future. Like there's so much I get more excited when I'm betting in something big that I believe in, right? Like whether it's something I'm doing at work or it's something that I'm like investing in, when I believe that it's part of like a bigger narrative and like a bigger thing that could lead to outsized results, I'm just so much more motivated, right? So like this is why I love buying these like workforce house homes around downtown Jacksonville because the input is there. The thing that I'm supposed to be doing today is happening, but like that like passion of something big happening is definitely there too.
I think we all want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And, sometimes you have the opportunity to do that in an investment. Sometimes you don't, but you also get to be a part of that too. And for those who get to see, they come down to the summit every single year. You all feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourselves. You feel like you're a part of this movement here in downtown Jacksonville. And I think there's something cool to know that you're on the inside and you see it first. Deion Sanders says he's like keeping receipts out there, right? I have been talking about downtown Jacksonville for, I don't know, 5 years, I don't know, 10 years, right? I've been talking a lot about it. And, you know, in my friend group, and, of course, in my professional relationships, everybody's like, oh, all right, Greg. Yeah, sure, sure, sure. Well, I'm keeping receipts, baby, because I can't wait for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I'm just going to randomly be downtown enjoying a show or dinner or hanging out in a park. And I'm going to see all of my friends. And I'm going to see all my friends in the business. I'm just going to give them a nod. It's like
Paddle boarding on the river.
paddleboarding on the river.
Yeah.
So, this is a pretty special time. And I'll kind of go into the numbers here, but I wanted to, of course, go just from not just the feel good of the great time that you had in Tampa and that I had in Austin. I wanted to put some real numbers to it because this is going to help you actually make the decision. What the numbers say is that you make more money when you invest in a downtown more than any other shopping center, more than any other school district, right? Revitalized downtown cities have appreciated 76% more than the US on average since 2005. And you can see Denver, Austin, I think they're the second highest appreciation behind Nashville here. So this has a real quantifiable effect on your return on investment. And some of you might not remember this. This shocked me when I put this slide together, but Nashville, Austin, and Tampa all had home prices that were both below Jacksonville and the US in 2005. And if we just look at Austin, look at that. $160,000 was the median home sales price in 2005. Jacksonville's was actually 172,000,
Wow.
right? We were
Yeah.
both well below the US average.
Yeah.
Look at what has happened in Austin. The median home sales price now is 430,000. It's 5% above the US. Look at these other data points. Nashville, Denver, Tampa, they all have gone from either way below the national average to above the national average, or in the case of Denver, it was always above the national average, but now it's way above the national average. And ask yourself, what do these cities have in common? Everything, what they have in common between each one of these is that they had a revitalized downtown that happened sometime in the 2010s. So if you're thinking about where to put your money, your mind should be saying, I'm not worried about the next grocery store. I'm not worried about the next shopping center. How do I find the next Austin?
Yeah.
That's what we should be thinking.
Yeah, and it's similar like the way that you're thinking about grocery stores or shopping centers. You're not buying the shopping center. You just want to buy a home by the shopping center, right? Like so it's like buying a home by the downtown to me is do you have that plot graph of like where all these JWB properties are?
Yeah.
Um I mean that thing when you showed it to me, it blew my mind, right? Like that like this just swarm of properties that are all around downtown Jacksonville. Like what I think of just first principles investing, right? Like whether you are an entrepreneur starting a business or you are an investor investing in a certain sector, it is when you are betting on something that is growing rapidly and has a whole bunch of tailwinds pushing it forward, it's like it's really hard. Like it'll make somebody that's very average look really smart, right? Whereas when you are betting on something that is dwindling and demand is dropping, right? Like, good luck building a digital camera business right now, like, or like just ask Kodak, right? Like, or any of these kind of like companies, right? Like, whereas anybody that was building a business during the boom of the internet did really really well. If you started a social media agency in 2015, you probably did really really well, right? Like nowadays it's these like AI first companies that are all like booming and doing well. Like betting on the thing that is really bound to grow is the thing that creates these like incredible results for average people and like parabolic results for people that really know what they're doing.
100%. It's so critical. Many people haven't made this connection. And the thing that I love and what I share with investors out there is investing in Jacksonville with JWB is the only opportunity to take advantage of this in a cash flow positive market where there is growth, where there's a professional property management company. Like this is the only opportunity. This is one of the things that differentiates JWB investors, the opportunity they have versus investing in Cleveland or Indianapolis or Kansas City or Memphis or any of those cities. They don't have the opportunity to be the next great American downtown
Mm-hmm.
like Jacksonville does.
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers show that if you can find the moment to invest, right? It's hard for you to be an early pioneer. I was an early pioneer in downtown Jacksonville, right? I own about 20 city blocks in downtown Jacksonville. It's a lot of risk when my business partners and I set out to buy that. I was never going to bring that to you guys. That was too much risk. But right now, when we look at that slide, and we'll go back to this slide right here, and you see all of these things that are completed, and you see these things that are under construction, that means that there's cranes moving, there's dollars that's being spent, incentive packages have already been approved. Now you're in this call it early adopter phase. And if you look at the cycle when people generally make the most money over the long haul, you want to be just before the curve. You just want to be just before mainstream. And that's what you have right now in downtown Jacksonville. So there you go, man. That's what I see.
I the one thing that I would add to what you said, GC, is that it's one thing to see it coming. It's another thing to have access to it. Right? So like somebody could have said this about Austin and they could have said this about Denver and they could have said this about Nashville and they could have said this about Tampa. Um, then there is, and then you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to go invest in downtown. At that point, you'd have to be an accredited investor. You got to come with a lot of capital for it, right? Like it weeds out a lot of people, and it had this baked in risk of what you are talking about, right? Like to me, what's special about this is that you have the insider information, you know that this is happening, and the ability to also have an operator that has been built and tested and developed and written about and like invested by everybody, by 6,000 other people, of they know how to bring the workforce single family home asset class, which is the most risk mitigated asset class that benefits from all this stuff. And you don't have to go put $1 million into a skyscraper. You get to put $50,000 into a home that's gonna house a family, and you know exactly how it's gonna perform, and you're gonna get all this upside with all this leverage and all this stuff. That to me is what's extraordinary. The access to being able to activate on this information based on the uniqueness of JWB being in existence in this moment in time, to me is what I can't get over.
It's at the core of kind of who we are between my business partners and I. We love serving everyday people. And when you can take everyday families and help them get to a level that they didn't know was possible, whatever financial outcome that is really special to us. We do not serve the institutions. We do not serve hedge funds. So this idea of bringing access to everyday people is core to us. And I love how you pointed out that this wouldn't have been possible to do in Austin when Austin was going through its growth. It was not possible to take advantage of single family rental properties at scale, no matter where you live in the country or where you live at the world, when Austin was going through its revitalization, or
Mhm.
Nashville, or any of these other cities.
Yep.
You can now, between JWB and the opportunity in downtown Jacksonville, you have that opportunity, and I hope you guys take advantage of it.
So just explain it real quick before we get out of here, GC. So this is the housing stock right now that you can buy one of these homes that are within a 15-minute drive of this downtown that's going to
Yeah.
benefit from all this stuff.
Absolutely. You don't need to be accredited. A minimum investment of about 50,000, I would say about 75,000 out of pocket on average, and your returns are going to be 9 to 10%. But we do have those. Well, all of our properties are within 10 miles of downtown Jacksonville, guys. This isn't on accident. This is a big reason why we decided to buy up 20 city blocks of downtown Jacksonville. It was because this was going to improve the lives of the community, but it was going to improve your financial outcomes substantially, because all of these 5,500 homes that we manage will go up in rent, will go up in home price. The median incomes will go up. So it will be easier for your residents to afford it when your rents go up. And that's how everybody can win. And when you invest in a risk mitigated asset surrounding the downtown, that's the best risk adjusted returns that we know of. And that's why I believe in it so much. And when you throw in this incentive
I was about
package
to
with
say the $17,000 for free doesn't help. It
Guys,
doesn't hurt.
this is the biggest one. This is the
Yeah.
biggest incentive package. You can ask any of our clients. We've never had an incentive package this big. So you can lock in today at those 5% interest rates. I mean, 5% in today's environment, right? Does that just bring a little bit of calm? Fixed 5% rate. Okay. So you have that opportunity now. It's for the next 30 properties that go under contract. And you do also receive that $4,000 to $6,000 in the property management credit, which goes towards, it funds basically your first 5 years of your maintenance costs. So you get that check from us. Hopefully you put it right into a reserve account for when those costs come along the way. And, we set out to bring peace of mind through these investments. And I think the investments do that. But when you add on these types of incentives, what we hope is that it cuts through the noise and it makes it a no-brainer for you.
Yeah. Yeah, this is preparation meets opportunity right here for those of you that have been like paying attention. I don't know, man. Like to me, this is so obvious. GC, I know we said that we're going to do a 45-minute show, but this was way too exciting, and we couldn't do it in any less time. That being said, quick question from the Man of Steel, Vincent Barbright. What do you think of the houses located inside the downtown area? Will commercial developers eventually try to buy them all up, or do you think they'll stay residential?
There's just not a lot of housing stock in downtown Jacksonville at
Correct.
all. It's very, very limited. There's not single family homes, and there's some condos barely, but just not a lot. So what you'll see over time, and this the way this flywheel works, is that the numbers first need to make sense for an apartment or a mixed use concept. So you'll see incentives with mixed use is the what you're going to see initially. Eventually, you'll see more mixed use and maybe just some straight apartments. And then when the numbers get good enough, then the condos will come in and people will it will actually make sense for people to buy the condos. It'll make sense for the developers to sell them as condos. So
Mhm.
that'll come down the line. Um, but uh, but yeah, so right now the best opportunities for you to buy those single family homes right around. The other reason is if you were to buy a downtown condo right now, it's not going to produce positive cash flow.
Correct.
It's a risk. It is a speculative investment. You're going to go way cash flow negative today because the rents are nowhere close to what they need to be in order to justify the prices. That's why JWB, if the numbers worked, we would go and we'd buy every downtown condo or everything we could buy because we believe so much in the message. But I'm not going to bring a severely cash flow negative property to you, even though it's in downtown, and say, guys, go buy this just for the upside. There's a better way. Yeah, I want you to do this in a peace of mind type of investment. And that's where you can buy these properties all within the 10 mile radius in JWB's neighborhoods we've been buying since 2006.
Love it, GC. Man, this was awesome. I thought we were gonna go 45 minutes because we weren't gonna be able to storytell for that long, but that was really, really cool. I enjoyed this format. I'm looking forward to your next spring break trip, so that we can visit another downtown. I want to thank the community. We had like 70 people here today, just taking an hour of your day to get educated, to get an edge on what we're talking about here, to understand this concept, which I think there's about 150 to 200 people that know this. Right. They're all not your average investors. So just a really, really cool thing. And we couldn't do it without you guys. Next week, we've got a gentleman by the name of Sir Jeffrey Bolton coming on here. He's going to share, he's got his own, he's got a philosophy around investing that he's been wanting to share, and we're gonna get into that around like how to keep reserves and how to have peace of mind around all this type of stuff. I think it's gonna be a really really interesting conversation. Plus, we're gonna see how his portfolio performs, like we normally do when we have a guest investor. And that's it, man. GC, you want to say anything before we say our last words here?
Just this show feels like it's everything has come together between my family and having fun with my family and what I believe as far as our investment thesis and helping our clients out and all of this good stuff. So it's a very fulfilling show for me. So thank you all for being here and